Okay, so everyone, I am Shelby Bates. I'm with the Colorado Initiative for Inclusive Higher Education. We are putting on a monthly webinar really about the different options for college for students with intellectual disabilities. So today's webinar is with Christina Rufati, who is the director right now for UNC GOAL. So I think you can see her. I'm going to let her take it away, and then as we go, if you have questions, I think you have the ability to unmute your microphones. If there's like a lot of bounce back noise, then I also have the ability to mute the microphone. But if you have questions, you could either unmute it and ask your question, or if you type them in the chat box, I will be here kind of just monitoring what's going on in the chat box. Okay. All right, Christina, it's all you.
Unmute me. Okay, great. So this is super strange. I hear myself talking on Shelby's computer. Just kidding, I don't anymore. So we're in the same room and webinars are, I don't know. I'm still learning technology, everyone. So good morning. I recognize some of the names on my screen, and for those of you who I don't recognize, welcome as well. My name is Christina Rufati. I am the Executive Director for UNC GOAL, which stands for Go On and Learn. It is UNC's inclusive education program here in Greeley. As always, we have a lovely PowerPoint presentation. So as questions come up, if you want to drop them in the chat box so you don't forget them, that's totally fine, and then we will answer them at the end. Hopefully this is going to be a high-level overview. I'm sure additional questions will pop up. You all are welcome to reach out to me directly. I talk fast. I'm going to try to slow it down. So GOAL stands for Go On and Learn. So what that is it's college opportunity for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities who cannot typically matriculate into the university. So our students apply for admission using different admission criteria. They do not need their ACTs or SATs, but they do need a documented developmental or intellectual disability. We are something called a Certified Transition Program, or CTP. That matters because it allows our students to qualify for Pell Grants and federal work study. Our students cannot apply for any sorts of loans because we are a non-degree seeking program. Our students live on campus in one of our residence halls for the first 2 years, and we'll talk about what that looks like a little bit later. They take classes along with their typically matriculated peers using a combination of modifications and accommodations, and then each student participates in one GOAL direct instruction class a semester. There's also a vocational component of our program as well. So part of living on campus means also participating in campus activities alongside typical peers. So that can be a variety of different options. And all of our students receive academic, social, and job supports. So there's my staff. You'll see Laura's picture. She's a shadowy figure in this. That's simply because she's new to my team and we have not had an opportunity to get her over to the communications department to have her picture taken. Everyone with the exception of myself are all licensed special educators. My background is in vocational rehabilitation counseling. I was with the state of Colorado for 1.5 years as a voc rehab counselor, and then after that I worked for Jeffco Public Schools as the School to Work Alliance program coordinator. So it's possible in my travels I've come in contact with some students already who you may be referring to our program, which is always super exciting. Joshua and James both come to us from South Carolina, where they worked in inclusive programs in South Carolina. Laura is a doc student with us and quite frankly is one of the most amazing educators I've had the opportunity of knowing. So why we get to exist is because, well, it's about time, but more importantly, Higher Education Opportunity Act of 2008 made the pathway for inclusive programs. So more information can be found on Think College. It's an amazing resource just for anyone if you want more information. So high school to college I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of parents and families, only because it's a big change for everyone. And if you are a parent on the line with us, you've probably spent the better part of your student's high school career, elementary, middle school, advocating. And I want you to know that you have done an amazing work if you are getting to the point where you're considering college for your student. So your role is going to change a little bit. It's going to be more of a trusted advisor and less of an advocacy role. Part of the work that we do is to expect our students to work on advocating for themselves, along with support of my team, peer mentors, Disability Resource Center, just the universal accommodations that exist around campus. The communication will start flowing from your student to support staff and to the professor. Your role is no longer to be that point of communication, which is a really hard transition, and I appreciate that. I know I just talked to a parent yesterday who told me each day she has to remind herself that her student is in control, and that's okay. So it's super important to remember that we're not going to do anything for the student without the student's voice present. So that means if you email us, we will respond back to you with including your student. Student records now transfer to the students. So you're now under 504 of the Rehabilitation Act and not IDEA. So your student doesn't have to share information with you. And if you call us, unless we have a release, we have to follow the direction of the student. So we did include more examples here, and now I'm terrified that I've just gotten out of this PowerPoint. So this is a Think College reference that you're welcome to look at. I'm not going to drill it all the way down, but this just talks about the differences between high school and college. Super important reference. Now, Shelby, I think I got to get myself back to where I was. Oh, goodness. Bear with me, everyone. Okay, there we are. So a high level overview of my program, 2019, we are in our 4th year. We have 17 students who are on campus. They're being supported in academics, independent living, campus membership, self-determination, and vocational, which I did not put on there, but that is super important. The work that we do cannot happen without the support of our peer mentors. Right now, I'm at 24 peer mentors to my students of, well, we're down to 16 after the break. Peer mentors serve a lot of different roles. Most importantly, they provide a natural support because it's a lot easier to listen to your peers than it is to professional staff. So they support in academics, social inclusion, vocational support, independent living skills, campus membership. So our students live in residence halls. They participate in any of the clubs and organizations we have on campus that they're interested in. And we have over 150 clubs and organizations. And then they do other social activities with the support of our peer mentors and GOAL staff. So what makes us different? We are one of only 18 four-year universities across the nation. So just to give you a point of reference, there's 281 inclusive programs as of last count. UNC is one of 18 with 4 that allows for living in residence halls. So for the first 2 years, our students live in Turner Hall. You can see an aerial picture of what the suites look like. So you can see the students all have their individual room. There's a shared common space, and then shared sink space with private bathroom for students. So they are supported by our residence life peer mentor. This individual lives in Turner Hall and is available for sort of helping to navigate what it's like to live in college. They're available after hours. And then my director of campus inclusion, his office is actually over in Turner Hall. So he's available during regular business hours for sort of, hey, I don't know what to do. Can you help me? To provide that guidance as needed. We do mandate that our students live in Turner Hall for the first 2 years unless they're a commuter student and live within the Northern Colorado area. The reason being, we understand that it's a transition and we want to make sure our students are getting the best support possible. Junior and senior year, students are encouraged to live as independently as possible, meaning some students are living off campus in apartments, some are living on campus in different dorms, some are living in on campus apartments with roommates. So engagement is super huge to us. We recognize there needs to be a balance, and this is also something that is different to think about. While academics is one component, it's not everything. So we really need to make sure we're having a nice balance. Students are able to choose what sorts of clubs and organizations they're going to be interested in and participate. James, our director of campus inclusion, encourages students to just sort of sample everything and find something that works for them. So this is just a very rough representation of what some of our students have participated in: Greek life, Young Life, which is religious organization, Bear Catholic, attending sporting events, club rugby, Spectrum, club martial arts, personal training, football, ROTC, university singers, club swimming, and so much more. Like I said, we have about 150 different clubs and organizations on campus. Academics. So this breaks out what it sort of looks like for academics for our students. We are a 4-year program, so students do take 72 to 80 credit hours total. Each semester it's going to be about 8 to 10 credit hours. 4 of those credit hours rather is going to be a specialized instruction goal course, and then 2 traditional courses that align with their area of interest. They have access to tutors. Our academic coordinator works very hard with our instructors to develop modifications to the coursework. So our students are expected to go to class and complete their modified assignments, just like we would expect any student attending a university to complete coursework. Accommodations, we work with the Disability Resource Center on campus to get those accommodations in place. Our transcript is going to show grades. It will show a modified grade on the transcript. And what it results in is a certification of higher education. So I do get a lot of questions around, well, it's not a degree, so what does that look like? Yes, it's not a bachelor's degree, but there's so much more learning that happens, as I'm sure anyone who has participated in post-secondary experiences knows. It's not just about the coursework, it's about all of that hidden curriculum that comes along with being immersed in an experience. So currently students are taking coursework that aligns with early childhood education, brew science, human services, art and music. We really do spend time to think through what is going to be the best plan for students. And I don't know about anyone on the line, but I definitely know I changed my mind. So we do let students know that it's not set in stone and there is some flexibility built in. This is just an overview of what it typically looks like for our students and a breakdown of the credit hours. So accommodations versus modifications. So accommodations is with regards to how the learning occurs. So some examples that you have probably seen in your travels is extended time, quiet testing location, assisted tech, having more flexible deadlines, and they're all offered. These are offered to all university students with a disability through Disability Resource Center. Modifications is why inclusive ed works on a college campus. So this is actually modifying the coursework alongside the instructors. So allowing students to have alternative formats for testing, shortened assignments, different grade level reading assignment. All of our students are expected to have a 3rd to 4th grade functional reading and writing level. And these modifications are coordinated through our academic coordinator. Career, this is the fun stuff that excites me because, well, that's my background. Um, Career path employment. So really focusing on what courses make sense to lead to competitive integrated employment is how we say it in the biz, right? So that's going to be looking at jobs that are more require more skills than entry level employment. So our first and second year, we're really focusing on that career exploration piece. Our students are expected to work on campus second semester, freshman year, and then all of their sophomore year. We have amazing campus partners, dining services, campus rec, that just really create space for our students and allow the learning to continue beyond the classroom. And there is an expectation that our students are working when they return home for summer break. That's obviously so we can just continue to see skill growth, and when they come back in the fall, they're ready to hit the ground running. Our third and fourth year, we're working more towards off-campus internships and off-campus employment. Once again, that expectation is for our students when they return back to their home communities, they are continuing to work over summer break. And that is a lot of the work that my employment coordinator, Joshua, to help students make those connections. He does work very closely with various Division of Vocational Rehabilitation offices and other community partners to make sure those things are in place. Other supports that exist on campus, these are just everything that any student who attends UNC would have access to. So Disability Resource Center, Counseling Center, Writing Center, tutoring, campus rec, Center for Women's and Gender Equality, Gender and Sexuality Resource Center, and Student Health Center. This is a very detailed application process, and it looks daunting. I assure you it's not. You already probably have all of these things somewhere in your travels. So things we're looking at are obviously documentation of intellectual developmental disability, looking at the most recent triannual to see of most recent testing, most recent IEP, letters of recommendation for the student. Something new we've layered in is letters of recommendation for the family or caregivers. We really want to ensure that the student support system is also supporting the goals of the program. That way we're working all together to support the student. The student must be their own applicant or their own guardian, sorry. That's really just university requirements. Successful completion of the student and parent interview. So what that looks like is we're inviting students back to participate in an interview. We interview the student and the family and then just parents. When we're just interviewing the family or caregiver, the student is going with one of our peer mentors and exploring campus, practicing some skills, because we want to make sure that the skills are in place prior to the fall. So that can be something like, show me that you can check an email. Can you program my phone number into your phone? Because students are living away from campus, we need to make sure they have skills in place and if they're not there yet, then definitely things that can be practiced over the summer or prior to admitting in the fall. Let's see. Phase 2 of our application process is inviting students back for a 3-day college preparedness session. What this looks like is students are staying on campus for those 3 days without family and learning what college is like. Also, it allows our staff to get to know the student prior to the fall. If all of that goes smoothly, then we extend a letter of admission and the student starts in the fall. So our decisions are based on the student's desire to attend college. They have to want to be here. If they don't, it's not going to work. Ability of GOAL staff to meet the student's needs. So sometimes we just can't, and we have to be able to have an open conversation around that. The ability of the applicant to negotiate transitions. So we know that transition is hard and we are here to support, but we also need to know that the student is going to build skills and be successful with going to class and isn't going to feel so uncomfortable they're staying in their room and not participating with peers. Potential of the applicant to successfully achieve goals. I mean, obviously we want to make sure that students are being successful and we're not just admitting just because we don't want anyone's family or caregivers to support the goals of the student. Research has shown time and again that if the family is not supporting what's happening, the student is not likely going to experience success at the end of their 4 years. Willingness to apply for adult wraparound services. So things such as DVR or working with your local CCB. We want to make sure that when students leave our campus, there are supports in place in their home communities. And the transition from college to what I like to call hashtag adult life is going to be pretty smooth and seamless. These are estimated costs. College is expensive for everyone. I know, I hear it, I feel it. I have student loan debt myself. So this is just a breakdown of our costs and what it looks like. Possible funding sources, like I said, we are a CTP, so applying for FAFSA is going to be very important. We've had a number of students qualify for Pell Grant and Federal Work Study. Working with your Department of Voc Rehab if you're not connected already. I will tell you, it is a process just like anything. It can take the better part of 6 months. So getting that going is going to be very important if that's a service that you choose to apply for. Scholarships are, of course, always available to students. I don't have detailed drill downs of that, but I'm happy to work alongside you and see if we can't get something. Our Office of Financial Aid, they're amazing. They've done amazing work to support our students, and they're also here if you need them. For more information, you can visit our website. You can tell me if I need to make updates, because sometimes I don't know until I hear from the user what those changes need to look like. Yeah, so that's very high level overview of GOAL, and I encourage you all to, if you have interest, to come schedule a tour. Our admissions people are amazing. You can meet with myself and my staff when you're up here and check out just everything UNC has to offer. So I'm going to hit the next slide, which says questions.
Okay, so we have one question. Could you talk about current students and how they are funded without breaching confidentiality? How many get support through DVR? All right, Christina, can you just talk a little bit, maybe like how many of your students are accessing DVR? I know that some families choose not to access DVR, so that could be at play here too. And for some families too, there's financial variables where what they're receiving from DVR may be influenced on that. But Christina, I'll let you talk more on that.
Okay, I'm unmuting me. Okay, so hey, I love this question and thank you for acknowledging confidentiality. All right, so here's what I can tell you about DVR overview, and this hopefully will make my DVR counselors happy that I say this the right way. It is individualized based upon the students or individual's goals. So I can tell you at least 10 of my students are connected to DVR in one form or another. So that doesn't mean that DVR is going to pay for everyone, but DVR is a resource and they are able to help support with vocational goals. So maybe there's other things other than tuition that a student needs. So if DVR is like, well, you don't have a tuition need, but job seeking skills and training is something that would make sense for this student, that is something that DVR can support. So I'm not going to speak to all of the things that they do, but like I said, about 9 of them are connected at this time. What was the rest? There was a lot of, what was the rest? Okay. Yes, so career goals going into DVR. So just like anything, DVR needs to know that there's a plan. I mean, we all pay into DVR system through our tax dollars. So DVR is required to be good stewards of those financial resources. So before DVR will authorize, there needs to be some job explorations happening. This can happen with your DVR counselor. This can happen with your school staff. happen in a lot of different ways. And then DVR will ask for a justification of training form, and they will want to know that your student has done research in the area that they've expressed interest. So for example, if a student says, I want to be a marine biologist, but also I want to live in Colorado, DVR is probably going to push back with, there's not a whole lot of jobs available for that in Colorado. So we may need to dig a little bit deeper. Good resources for this are going to be ONET. That just help, it will break it so far down as related jobs. If your student has an idea, then exploring deeper into what that is. Virtual Job Shadow is a resource that I've used in the past where students can actually see the job being done virtually and see if that's something that's interesting to them. So really what DVR is needing is there's been some exploration and there's a solid plan in place that they feel comfortable supporting.
Question. Let's go with the one that's similar to that. Is on-campus employment part of federal work study, or can you just talk more about on-campus employment and the role that it plays with GOAL in general?
Okay. So federal work study, so some employers on campus will only allow work study students. So my peer mentors, for example, I really only hire work study peer mentors because it doesn't come out of a department's budget. It's already been allocated by the federal or state government. So our students are not necessarily working with those employers right now. For the most part, we have students working in dining services, in our recreation center, places that don't require work study as a component. So the reason why we're starting with on-campus employment is to increase the building of the community for the student and also to work on job skills. So working in a dining hall may not be the student's job goal, but there's a lot of transferable skills that go with that. So for example, customer service and knowing how to work with other people is something that goes into every job. So a place to practice those skills creates to better results for students as they leave UNC. Did I hit all the points?
All right, similar question with employment. Someone has a question about employment rate after graduation and job placement after graduation. Do you want me to answer?
I
After
can give
graduation?
my answer and then you can give your answer. Okay, so the answer to this question is I don't know yet, and here's why. I don't have any graduates yet because we are such a new program. I can tell you what the research says, which is that there's about a 75% higher employment rate at the end of inclusive programs. I can also tell you that those employment rates are leading to higher wages and students are entering into more mid-level jobs and not so much of what I call the 5 F's, and I can't think of all of them right now, but food, it's typically food, flowers, filth, really those entry-level jobs that students are capable of so much more than, and we want the return on investment. Obviously, investing in a college education is crucial, but we want to make sure that that money is coming back in the end. So I think Shelby probably has more drilled down answers than what I said.
I'm going to add on to this question just that when we first started looking at models in other states, looked at the data from Think College on what makes for successful programming for career outcomes. And so that employment rate was a really big component in looking at those on-campus and off-campus internships and jobs while students are in campus. Also, like Christina was saying, having access, making sure that students in Colorado who have these pathways can access any course in the course catalog. We've seen in other states where students might only have access to certain pathways for their careers. But really for Colorado, we're really invested in what is the job that the individual wants and where can that placement occur. The last piece I'll say with this is that our first graduates are coming this year in May, and so we'll continue to kind of update the public on where they're at, what that employment piece looks like. And then I'll do the next question. Let's see. Okay, we're going to keep going with the career questions.
Okay.
I see your other questions and we will circle back. When a first year student is looking for a job on campus, do they have assistance in job development and job coaching?
I love this question. The answer is yes. So Joshua works alongside students with job development, and we have peer mentors who are capable of going in and doing some job coaching. I will tell you, our employers on campus are so aware of how to work with any student. We rarely have to, actually, I'm thinking through all of our students working on campus. None of them have used job coaching because they just haven't needed to. They use really natural supports that are on in their employment. I just observed a student the other day who first day on the job and was working alongside his coworker learning how to do the job. So this campus has really wrapped their arms around the idea of inclusive ed, and we have so many stakeholders that are here for us and willing to support all aspects, but most specifically the employment piece.
All right, we've got another question about DVR. What is the maximum that you've seen from DVR? And I don't know if you know that or if you want to share that.
Really, I don't know that. Because it's so individualized to each family situation. What I can tell you is if that's a route that you're thinking of going down, please make sure you apply for the FAFSA. DVR is going to want to know that they are essentially the payer of last resort. So because we are CTP certified now, Pell Grant is going to be what is looked at first, and then DVR, if it makes sense, then they would look at all of the components. So I didn't really answer your question. For that, I apologize. Really just start having those conversations early on and understand that DVR is learning along with the rest of us. So there may be some hiccups, and please allow them some grace as much as possible because they really are supporting the work of what's happening at UNC.
Okay, we're going to switch tracks and go to questions about applying.
Yay.
So one, how many people are enrolled and is there a max number accepted each year? And then related to that kind of for application is, can you take a gap year? Or do you have to come right after high school? Or can you use transition services?
Very good questions, thank you. Okay, so application is a competitive process. We will not be admitting any more than 10 freshmen this go round, and that is our cap for admittance. We will at no time have more than 30 to 33 students in our program. That's just due to capacity, and we want to make sure we're doing good service delivery, and too much is too much. So there's that. So yes, 10 is our max. We will continue to review applications till April 14th. So the sooner you can get everything in, probably the better, because that means that you probably will get contacted before late applications of the 15th. Okay, what else was the question?
Can you apply after a gap year? Like, is there any age?
So there's not, our students need to be at least 18 by the fall of their first year. Yes, you can take a gap year. In fact, students probably, with transitioning, that might be a benefit. If you can use transition services in your district, by all means use them. That's why they're there. Build those skills as much as possible. I think students who are most successful have taken advantage of every resource that is available to them. Students who have rolled right from high school to UNC, I actually think, no, I don't have any. No, none of our students have done that yet.
Okay, let's look at our next question. Oh, actually, sorry, I was going to add on to what Christina said. So also part of why we have in as an organization is to look at statewide expansion. And so if you're on the line and you're thinking, oh, 33 people, wow, that's going to fill up. There are 2 other schools. And then also on top of that, if you're thinking like years down the road, our vision is really to see this in all schools. So just know there's 3 pilots right now, but that doesn't mean it's 3 forever and that those numbers are the cap for the entire state. Just wanted to add that there. And I know there's another question that I missed. Oh, can they have access to the PowerPoint?
Yes, Shelby has it. I look to her to share it out with everyone.
Great. I will get the PowerPoint sent out later today. The other question is, do all the goal students live together or are they living with peers?
Thank you for this question. Right now, goal students are suite mates with other goal students. We have found that students transitioning need sort of that safe place where they can just go and be, and to go and be with students who they don't know and don't feel comfortable with has not been successful yet. I'm hopeful we will get there. We do have students who are in their third year who are not living with other goal students, so they do look to transition out of living with other goal students. But we don't directly place typically matriculating peers and goal students together for the first 2 years.
All right, someone has asked, do you have color guard?
Oh, I don't know. Can I follow up with you on that? I don't know all 150, I'm sorry.
And I think that's a great question. There are lots too on just like the general UNC website. I always encourage families to kind of just poke around on there, look at what clubs they have. There's lots of other services like the mental health services, the gym, rec center, and your UNC admissions folks. Usually, if you go on a tour, they're the ones that can answer that. I also get lots of questions like, "Is there a swim team? Can I do club soccer?" And usually, the like university wide admissions people are pretty great at answering those things too. Any other questions?
Also, Romy, you're very welcome. This is exciting. So many cool things are happening. And even if you're like, oh, I'm not there yet, that's cool. Still, please come for a tour, see what it's all about. Because I think you can't learn what's going on unless you're like here. And probably because I'm a UNC alum, I have, I feel this is home to me. And cool stuff, you guys. I gush a little bit. Our president helps our students move on move-in day, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah.
How many people are in state versus out of state students for goal specific?
All of my students are in state right now. Yeah, we are getting applicants from out of state as we speak, but so far everyone's in state. I will tell you, if you're Northern Colorado and you're on the line with us today, I don't have a whole lot of love from Northern Colorado. So it'd be real great to get some more students from Fort Collins, Greeley, the surrounding area. Most are coming from Denver Metro or Western Slope.
And what I'll add to that is that I think out of the 3 schools in Colorado, Goal is really cool because they are seeing students from really across the state who are taking advantage of living in the dorms. So that's been pretty cool just to see that representation. But I will also echo what Christina said, that Northern Colorado is not as represented. Thank you all so much. I will turn it back to Christina in case she has any closing things to say. But thank you again for registering, for being here. And we're always happy to answer.
I don't hear my closing remarks. Thank you for joining us. Spread the good word. Use Think College as a resource because it's there. And I am usually just an email away. I try to respond back to emails as quickly as I can. Phone is a little bit harder for me just because I'm out and about so frequently. But please come visit us. I can't say enough good things about how our university has really wrapped their arms around inclusive education. And our students, well, they're cool. So if they see you around, they'll say what's up. But probably you won't even recognize what's happening because it's that inclusive at UNC.